Hello, I'm Chris James. This is the owner's manual for the Hushe A-CES cranial electrotherapy stimulator for relaxation, stress relief, mood control, IQ gains, sleep improvement, performance enhancement, and much more. Please visit www.cranialelectrotherapy.co.uk for further information. The manual begins with the contents page. The manual is divided into several different sections, with a brief introduction including my personal story and the origins of the Hushe A-CES. The manual then goes into section 1 about the device and accessories, section 2 on the menu controls and settings, section 3 on how to prepare the electrodes for a session, section 4 how to start a Hushe A-CES session, Section 5 on Troubleshooting and Frequently Asked Questions, or FAQs, and Section 6, Technical Details about the device. There's also an index towards the back. We begin with a short disclaimer. The Hushe A-CES and accessories is solely intended for recreational use by adults who have read and understood this manual. Use of the device by a child or by an individual without the capability to operate the device by themselves should be supervised by an adult who has read and understood this manual. The informed consent of the child or individual should be obtained. The device has been carefully designed to be safe for use in the manner described in this manual. Specific safety features have been incorporated to ensure the safe operation of the device under normal operating conditions. In designing and testing the device, extensive reference has been made to research using equivalent or similar devices to ensure the safe operation of the device. Use of the device is entirely at your own risk. If you experience any negative side effects from using the device, stop using it immediately and consult your doctor or relevant health advisor. The device is not intended for medical use. If you plan on using the device in conjunction with an issue of a medical nature, or if you have any concerns of a medical nature, please seek the advice of your doctor or relevant health advisor. Additionally, this manual is not intended to convey any medical advice. If you are a medical health professional, please take the time to read the second half of this disclaimer page. Introduction. Thank you for choosing the Hushe A-CES cranial electrotherapy stimulator. Having done so, you're already on the route to a more fulfilling life. The Hushe A-CES is a precision instrument that may prove useful to you as an aid for relaxation, mood control, IQ gains, sleep improvement, performance enhancement, and much more via a process called cranial electrotherapy stimulation, CES. However, results are not guaranteed, since everyone is different. Some people may be more receptive to stimulation than others. The Hushe A-CES leaves you feeling alert and awake. Whilst using the Hushe A-CES, you are free to conduct safe activities, such as reading a book, watching television, or lying down. However, it is not recommended to use the Hushe A-CES whilst driving, operating machinery, or moving around. After use, there are usually no restrictions on your resuming normal activities. People who use the Hushe A-CES generally report that they experience a pleasurable and relaxing sensation accompanied by a state of well-being. The device delivers a very small electric current using a pair of ear clip electrodes. When you use the Hushe A-CES, it is possible that you will experience a slight tingling sensation in your earlobes. This is a result of the current flow gently stimulating the nerves in the skin. When you have learned the basic operation of the Hushe A-CES, you will find it very easy to use. Before you begin, please be sure to read this entire manual. It contains important instructions and features that will enable you to obtain the maximum benefit from your Hushe A-CES. If you find any of it too technical, don't worry. Take a break for a few minutes or move on to the next section. Please note that it is not recommended to use the Hushe A-CES if you are pregnant or have a pacemaker. Always remove earlobe earrings and any other jewellery that may come into contact with the electrodes. My story. The summer of 2013 was set to be just another summer. A family holiday, some average to good weather at home, and the continuation of mood fluctuations, stress, and general dissatisfaction with everyday life. Were it not for a magazine article I read, things may well have panned out just like that. The article spoke of a method involving the application of a small electric current from ear to ear, and it stated that using this method, called A-CES, I might be able to enhance my quality of life. I had nothing to lose apart from the money in my pocket, but the cost of some of the A-CES devices gave me second thoughts. £500, approximately $850 or €620, was a bit beyond what I had anticipated. So instead, I set about designing and using my own device. Step by step, each prototype evolved into the end product. This device has brought me a new lease of life and solved all sorts of issues that were once getting me down. To share the benefits with others, the device became the finished product you now own at a more affordable price than the others on the market. Using the device as often as I have done during development and testing, I can safely say that I enjoy using it, have grown in confidence, and developed a more positive outlook on life. I have experienced improvements to stress levels, mood, cognitive ability, and quality of sleep, such experiences being commonly reported in the research surrounding A-CES. The Hushe A-CES may be able to help you too. Do you want to feel more positive about life? Would you prefer not to feel so stressed out at times? If my experience is anything to go by, then your life too could soon take a turn for the better. Good luck, and please feel free to drop me an email with your experiences of using the Hushe A-CES. I'm always happy to help with questions you may have, and I wish you the very best for the future. Section 1. The device and accessories. The Hushe A-CES, or the device, has been progressively developed and tested by Hushe Limited in the United Kingdom. Its design and theory of operation is based on widely available research into the field of A-CES and related areas of study. The Hushe A-CES draws from the wealth of knowledge established over time and brings a new dimension in the form of variable waveforms, which provide you with a choice of waveforms based on your own personal preferences. The Hushe A-CES is a small, portable and robust handheld battery-powered unit with an illuminated LCD display, jack socket for connecting to the electrodes, and several control buttons. It comes together with several accessories, details of which are provided in this section. The controls are clear and simple to operate, with on-screen prompts in case you forget which button does what. An adjustable automatic timer controls the end of the session, so if you become distracted or fall asleep, you can be sure that the session will not overrun. A gentle alarm will sound briefly at the end of a session. The device will automatically power off after a few minutes of non-use, when not in session mode, and after a session has elapsed. The A-CES. The various controls and socket of the Hushe A-CES are shown here. The symbol next to each button name corresponds to the shape of that button. These shapes appear in this manual wherever a reference is made to the specific button. At the top of the front panel is the display. Just below that and to the right is the power button. Below that are three buttons. On the left hand side, the up button. In the middle is the square select button, and on the right hand side is the down button. On the top of the device is the Electrode Jack socket. This is where you plug in the Electrode Jack on the electrodes. The Electrode Jack is connected to a cable, on the other end of which are a pair of ear clip electrodes. The Electrode Pads are designed to fit neatly onto the electrodes. They consist of a small silicone rubber ring with a felt padding attached. The felt acts like a sponge, holding any electrolyte in it in place to make a good connection between the electrode and your earlobe. Fresh supplies of electrode pads may be ordered from our website www.cranialelectrotherapy.co.uk. Electrolyte. Your Hushe A-CES comes with a bottle of Hushe Electrolyte. This is a solution of ionic salts that serve as charge carriers to allow the transmission of electric current from the metal in the electrodes to the surface of your skin. Without use of an electrolyte, the metal electrodes would not form a good contact with your skin, with little pockets of air forming between them, which causes high resistances. When you're adding the electrolyte to the electrode pads, be careful not to drip any onto the device. Although the Hushe A-CES is sealed to protect against any such event, it is best practice to reduce the risk of damage to the electronics by keeping the electrolyte away from the device at all times. If you do happen to drip some electrolyte onto the floor or clothing, it can be easily washed off with water. After using the device, you may want to rinse your ears with a bit of water to remove any residual electrolytic salts. As with the electrode pads, fresh supplies of electrolyte can be ordered from our website www.cranialelectrotherapy.co.uk. Batteries. The Hushe A-CES is powered by two regular-sized AA 1.5 volt batteries, a pair of which are included. It is recommended to use alkaline, non-rechargeable batteries. Depending on the battery brand and make, you should be able to use the Hushe A-CES for over 50 sessions, based on a session duration of 25 minutes. Replacing the batteries. 1. Remove the battery cover by pressing gently on the top part of the cover, as shown by a ring on the diagram, and sliding the cover downwards in the direction of the arrow. Number 2. Insert the batteries as shown, making sure to observe the correct polarities. Number 3. Replace the battery cover by aligning the cover flat against the runners on the case to allow the little feet on the cover to slip underneath the latches on the case. You do not have to force the cover onto the case. Slide the cover gently up until it clicks into place. Section 2. Menu controls and settings. How to navigate through the menu display, change settings, and operate the Hushe A-CES using the control buttons. The Hushe A-CES features a simple menu-driven system for adjusting the settings and controlling the device. This section describes how to navigate the menu system, change the device settings, and activate a session. Pressing the power button turns on the device. The display shows the splash screen, and then the main menu. If the electrodes are unplugged, the display will be similar to this as shown here. If the electrodes are inserted, the display will show a small jack symbol in the bottom left. As indicated by the square to start text in the lower right, pressing the select button at this stage will start a session. Battery level meter. The battery level meter is displayed in the top left of the display. Depending on the number of bars on the battery level meter, you can check the remaining capacity of the batteries. When the battery level is low, it is a good idea to have spare batteries ready or to replace them early in case they run out during a session. Which settings should I use? The choice of settings is generally a matter of personal taste, based on which settings give you the most pleasurable experience and positive outcomes. As a guide, the following suggestions and tables should help you in deciding which settings are best for you. Recommended settings. For relaxation and mood control. If you're using the Hushe A-CES for relaxation and/or mood control, a general guide for beginners is to start with these settings: a frequency of 0.5 Hz, a duty cycle of 50%, the waveform that is square split or square S, a timer of 25 minutes. Use the device at these settings 2 times per day for 2 or 3 weeks. For IQ gains, sleep improvement and performance enhancement. If you're using the Hushe A-CES for IQ gains, sleep improvement and/or performance enhancement, a general guide for beginners is to start with these settings: frequency of 50 Hz, a duty cycle of 50%, waveform square split or square S, and again a timer of 25 minutes. Again, use the device at these settings 2 times per day for 2 or 3 weeks. Information on the other settings is provided in the following section. If you're happy with the recommended settings, then you may prefer just to move straight on to page 11, adjusting the timer. A bit more on 0.5 Hz. Frequencies of 0.5 Hz may help with relaxation and mood control. If you notice any mild sensations whilst using the device at 0.5 Hz, then they are likely to be gentle pulses. There is no harm in using other frequencies, and you may well gain equivalent results from doing so. The most important factor is your personal comfort and pleasure whilst using the device. Split waveforms deliver their energy evenly over time and are usually recommended. You may, however, feel that the joined waveform is of more interest to you. With the joined waveform, the start of the wave always occurs on the same electrode, or the same ear. The left and right sides of our brains generally carry out separate functions, and delivering a joined waveform may favour increased stimulation in one side over the other. If you decide to use a joined waveform, try to ensure that you connect the ear clip electrodes to the same ears for each session. With joined waveforms, experiment by swapping the electrodes around and decide for yourself which configuration results in the most pleasurable experience. A table summarising those pieces of information is shown below. The frequency, duty cycle, waveform and comments. At 0.5 Hz, at a duty cycle of anywhere between 10 to 60%, using a sine, split or joined waveform, you're capable of obtaining relaxing, mood-enhancing stimulation. The device delivers less energy than square waveforms, but more energy than triangular waveforms. Lower duty cycles deliver less energy. At 0.5 Hz, with a duty cycle of anywhere from 10 to 60%, using triangle waveforms of split or join type, you're capable of experiencing relaxing, mood-enhancing stimulation. These are the least energetic of the waveforms. Lower duty cycles deliver less energy. At 0.5 Hz, again anywhere between 10 to 60% duty cycle, using a square waveform, split or joined, capable of obtaining relaxing, mood-enhancing stimulation. These are the most energetic of the waveforms. Lower duty cycles again deliver less energy. So as you can see, the most energetic are the square waves, the least energetic are the triangular waves, and the most in between are the sine waves. 50 and 100 Hz. Frequencies of 50 and 100 Hz may be effective for IQ gains, sleep improvement and performance enhancement. If you do experience any mild sensations whilst using the device at these frequencies, then they're likely to be continuous as opposed to the pulses that are typical of the 0.5 Hz frequency. Again, there is no harm in using the other frequencies, and you may well gain equivalent results from doing so. The most important factor is your personal comfort and pleasure whilst using the device. Again, a summary table is provided, separated into frequency, duty cycle, waveform and comments. At frequencies of 50 or 100 Hz, with duty cycles anywhere between 10 and 60%, with sine waveforms, split or joined, capable of obtaining relaxing, IQ boosting, sleep and or performance enhancing stimulation. The sine waves here deliver less energy than the square waveforms, but more energy than the triangle waveforms. Lower duty cycles deliver less energy. So, as before, similarly we can see that the square waveforms deliver the most energy, triangle waveforms deliver the least energy, and sine waveforms somewhere in between. At the higher wave frequencies of 50 and 100 Hz, any sensory distinction between split and joined waveforms is less noticeable in most cases. A general guide would be that split waveforms deliver energy more evenly over time and are usually recommended over the joined waveform. See the comments on the 0.5 Hz section above regarding when you may want to choose a joined waveform. Adjusting the timer. From the main menu, use the up and down buttons to highlight the timer item. Press the select button to go to the timer adjust page. Press the up and down buttons to increase and decrease the timer. Hold them down to scroll up or scroll down faster. The shortest timer available is 1 minute, and the longest timer available is 1 hour. Press the select button to save the timer and return to the main menu. Adjusting the waveform. From the main menu, use the up and down buttons to highlight the waveform item. Press the select button to go to the waveform select page. Press the up and down buttons to cycle through the waveforms. Press the select button to save the waveform and return to the main menu. About the waveforms. The square waveforms are either on or off. Square waveforms deliver the most energy and so may result in the most noticeable sensations. Sine waveforms are smoothly curved, deliver slightly less energy and so may result in less noticeable sensations. Triangle waveforms are gently sloped, deliver the least energy and so may result in the least noticeable sensations. The split waveform types are so called because the peaks and troughs of the wave are split apart, separated by 2 periods in the off state. The joined waveform types are so called because the peaks and troughs of the wave are joined together, resulting in one single off period between pulses. Adjusting the duty cycle. From the main menu, use the up and down buttons to highlight the duty cycle item. Press the select button to go to the duty cycle adjust page. Press the up and down buttons to increase and decrease the duty cycle by 10% each time. The lowest available duty cycle is 10%. The highest available duty cycle is 60%. Press the select button to save the duty cycle and return to the main menu. About the duty cycle. The waveform spends a certain period of time in the off state, depending upon the duty cycle. As an example, with a duty cycle of 50%, the waveform will be in the off state half of the time. As you reduce the duty cycle, the duration of the off state increases. This results in narrower peaks and troughs in the waveform, reducing the average energy output. Adjusting the frequency. From the main menu, use the up and down buttons to highlight the frequency item. Press the select button to go to the frequency adjust page. Press the up and down buttons to cycle through the 3 available frequencies of 0.5 Hz, 50 Hz and 100 Hz. And by the way, Hertz is the unit of frequency in cycles per second. So we have half a cycle a second, 50 cycles a second and 100 cycles per second respectively. Press the select button to save the frequency and return to the main menu. About the frequency. Research has shown that the frequencies of 0.5 Hz, 50 Hz and 100 Hz are effective frequencies for the delivery of SES current. Other than the level, the frequency setting has the most influence on any sensation felt when using the SES device. The Hushe A-CES uses an underlying proprietary pulse width modulated waveform. Section 3. Preparing the electrodes. How to connect the electrodes to the Hushe A-CES, attach the electrode pads to the electrodes, apply the electrolyte to the pads, and attach the electrodes to your ears. First, ensure that your earlobes are clean. Any dirt or grease could reduce or prevent the delivery of current. Insert the Electrode Jack into the Electrode Jack socket in the front panel of the device. The electrode should be inserted before attempting to start a session. Squeeze the lever on one of the ear clip electrodes to expose the surface of the electrode. Take one electrode pad from the packet and position it over the electrode. The soft material on the pad should be facing up. Gently press the pad onto the electrode so that the plastic ring part of the pad surrounds the electrode. The soft material of the pad should be in contact with the electrode. Add 3 to 4 drops of electrolyte solution to the soft material on the pad. The electrolyte helps deliver the current from the electrode to the body. Always use electrode pads and electrolyte. Direct contact between the electrode and the skin may result in poor conductivity and skin irritation. Carefully clip the electrode and pad to the earlobe. You may find it helps to use a mirror at this point, especially if you're a beginner, although with practice it becomes very easy to attach the ear clip electrodes without a mirror. Repeat this process with the other ear, with the other electrode and a second pad. You are now ready to start using the Hushe A-CES. Section 4. Start a Hushe A-CES session. How to start a session, adjust the output level, and read the session display. Follow the instructions in the previous section, preparing the electrodes. Attempting to start a session whilst the electrodes are unplugged will cause the device to beep and to display the message "No electrodes" with a flashing jack symbol. After a few seconds, the display returns to the main menu. When you are comfortable and ready, select the Start option on the main menu and press the square Select button. The device displays the message shown here. Relax, check the electrodes are set up correctly. Press the Select button again and the session will begin. If at that stage you did not want to start the session, pressing the up or down buttons to cancel would return you to the main menu. Session controls. When the session begins, you will see a display similar to the one shown here. To end a session early at any point, press the Select button twice in short succession. The diagram below shows the various parts of the session display. High current is shown to the right of high, average current to the right of AVG, the level meter is on the far right of the display, the timer is in the center of the display. The frequency, duty cycle and waveform that you have selected are shown just below the timer. The following section describes each part of the session display. You don't need to understand it all, just remember that if the sensations are noticeable, you probably have the device set too high, in which case you should press the down button to reduce the level. High current. The high current is shown to the right of the word high, HI, in the session display. This is an estimate of the current in microamps, which is millionths of 1 ampere, that passes between the electrodes when the waveform is in the active state. The waveform spends a certain amount of time in the off state, when no energy is transferred between the electrodes. This value is of more interest at frequencies of 0.5 Hz, where the on part of the wave lasts for half a second at 50% duty cycle. For frequencies of 50 Hz and 100 Hz, the average current value is more useful for describing the current passing between the electrodes. The device is designed to limit the high current to a maximum of 600 microamps. This is barely enough to power a standard LED such as the standby light on a television set, and is much lower than the electric current generally used in TENS machines, for muscle toning, for example. In practice, you will almost certainly be unable to achieve 600 microamps due to bodily resistances and certain aspects of the device specification. A more realistic expectation for maximum high current for a person with average skin type will be about 400 microamps when using a square waveform. Average current. The average current is shown to the right of the AVG word in the session display. Put simply, the average current is the high current multiplied by the duty cycle. For example, when the duty cycle is at 20%, the waveform is in the on state for less time than when the duty cycle is at 50%. The high current is the current that passes during the time when the wave is in the on state. When the wave is at 0 volts, it is in the off state, and no current passes between the electrodes. The average current is the average of the on and off currents. Timer. The timer display shows the hours, minutes and seconds left until the end of the CES session. Level meter. The level meter has 10 bars that fill as you increase the level. The session always begins at level 1, represented by a single black bar. The actual level number is displayed above the meter, for example, LVL1 for level 1. You may increase or decrease the level using the up and down buttons. This in turn adjusts the current from the electrodes. higher levels correspond to more current. Choosing the right level. There are 10 output levels available. If you gain anything from this manual, this is one of the most important parts. Normally, you should increase the level until you notice the small sensations from the electrodes, and then reduce the level by one level. And I'll repeat that bit because it is quite important. Normally, you should increase the level until you notice the small sensations from the electrodes, and then reduce the level by one level. For example, if you reach a certain level, say level 4, and start to feel small tingling sensations in your earlobes, go back to the level below, level 3 in this case, and stay at that level as long as you're comfortable until the end of the session. Don't feel you have to increase the level to improve the results. It's more important to feel comfortable whilst using the device. End of session. When the timer has elapsed, the device will emit a short alarm and then turn itself off. Remove the ear clip electrodes from your ears and take off the electrode pads. You may wish to rinse your ears of any residual electrolytic salts at this point. Dispose of the electrode pads as normal waste. It may be possible to rinse the pads with clean water for reuse, although it is not recommended to do this more than a few times per pad. The pads will gradually accumulate impurities that may interfere with the passage of the current. This will result in reduced delivery of current. Storage. Always store the device and the electrodes in the pouch to keep them protected from damage. Keep the device out of direct sunlight. Cleaning. If you need to clean the device, use a soft damp cloth that has had all excess water squeezed out. Do not expose the device to chemicals that may cause harm to the ABS enclosure, such as acetone. Section 5. Troubleshooting and Frequently Asked Questions, or FAQs. If you experience an error message or warning beeps, or have particular common questions, this section should help you. If the device displays an error message. In the unlikely event that the device detects a malfunction in one of its safety features, an error message is displayed. Error overcurrent detected, contact manufacturer. The session is immediately halted and the device is powered off. In such a situation, please contact the manufacturer. Do not attempt to use the device. Do not attempt to repair the device. If the device beeps when in session. If the Hushe A-CES detects a poor connection during a session, or if you remove the electrodes, a series of short beeps will sound. The session will continue even when this happens, so if you want to remove the electrodes and then reposition them, this will cause a brief series of beeps indicating a break in the connection. Replacing the electrodes on your earlobes will stop the beeping. If you have not removed the electrodes and you are sure that they are correctly set up, please check first that you have added enough electrolyte. 3 or 4 drops is usually enough, although you may want to add a couple more. Also make sure your ears are clean. Warm soapy water is best, followed with a dry towel. In the unlikely event that you are still experiencing a connection problem, as indicated by repeated beeping, then stop using the device and contact the manufacturer. The probable cause of such a scenario is broken or damaged electrode leads. For this reason, please make sure to always look after your Hushe A-CES and electrodes. If the device will not switch on, check that the batteries are inserted correctly, observing the polarity markings on the label in the battery compartment. If the batteries are inserted correctly and the device still does not turn on, try using a fresh set of batteries. If this does not work, please contact the manufacturer. If the maximum level current is lower than expected. The Hushe A-CES delivers a modified square wave via pulse width modulated current. A maximum voltage of around 12 volts is available to power the current, which, in an ideal system, would always produce a maximum of about 600 microamps. The human body has various inherent electrical properties that give it properties of resistance, capacitance and inductance in a complex series and parallel combination. No two bodies are exactly the same, with some people exhibiting lower resistances or higher capacitances, and others higher resistances or lower capacitances, for example. For this reason, the 12 volts that the Hushe A-CES uses will, in most cases, be insufficient to generate a current of 600 microamps. That is why the specification is described as a maximum achievable current. You may therefore ask, why should we restrict the voltage to a maximum of 12 volts? The principal reason is safety. By keeping the voltage low, the ionizing potential of the current is well within safe boundaries. Is a Hushe A-CES session anything like electroconvulsive therapy? In short, no. Using the Hushe A-CES is nothing at all like electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT. ECT is used in a medical setting and induces seizures in patients to provide relief from psychiatric illnesses using much higher currents and voltages. The Hushe A-CES leaves you fully alert and relaxed during a session, whereas ECT is generally known to be very uncomfortable. The Hushe A-CES may be able to improve your memory, whereas ECT has also been known to cause memory loss. How often should I use the device? It is recommended to use the device for 2 or 3 weeks, twice a day at first. After the first few weeks, you are free to reduce the number of sessions to between 2 or 3 sessions per week. The duration of these later sessions can be longer than the original sessions. So, for example, you may choose to start using the Hushe A-CES twice per day for 2 weeks at session durations of 25 minutes each. Then, after the 2-week period is up, use the Hushe A-CES for just 2 or 3 sessions per week for, say, 45 minutes to an hour per session. However, of course, you are free to use the Hushe A-CES more or less often than this, as your mood dictates. Using the device is not clinically addictive, and you are free to stop using it whenever you like. However, you shouldn't really overuse it. I wouldn't recommend more than 2 times a day. What time of day is best to use the Hushe A-CES? Any time of day up until a few hours before you go to sleep. The stimulating effect of the session can leave you feeling awake and invigorated. For this reason, it is best to avoid use of the device near bedtime. For maximum relaxation, choose the times of day where you're likely to experience the least amount of interruption. Are there any potential side effects? Any unintended side effects that are experienced are usually mild and temporary. Side effects that have been observed by a small proportion of users include dizziness, skin irritation, and headaches. Extended use at current levels that are higher than necessary may cause dizziness or nausea that can last for hours or days. Using the device immediately prior to going to sleep may cause difficulty sleeping due to increased alertness. For this reason, it is recommended that the Hushe A-CES be used at least 3 hours before going to sleep. Unexpected reactions, such as hyperexcited states, increased anxiety and sleep disturbances may occur, but are uncommon. If you find that the Hushe A-CES does not deliver positive results within 3 weeks, then please stop using the device. Section 6. Technical details. Electrical. Power source. 2 AA batteries included. Replace with disposable batteries, preferably alkaline. Rechargeable batteries are not recommended. Timer settings. From 1 minute to 60 minutes in 1-minute intervals. Current 0 microamps to an upper limit of 600 microamps, linearly adjustable. Voltage. Input 3 volts typical, output 12 volts maximum. Frequency 0.5 Hz, 50 Hz, 100 Hz, and an underlying pulse width modulated current waveform of 970 Hz. Waveforms. Simulated pulse width modulated approximations of square, sinusoidal and triangular waves with joined and split peaks. Note that the waveform diagrams used are simplified and are not necessarily what you would see on an oscilloscope. Duty cycle from 10% to 60% in 10% intervals. Mechanical data: height 11.7 centimeters, width 7.9 centimeters, depth 2.4 centimeters, weight 164 grams with batteries. At the end of the manual is an index containing a list of shortcuts to many of the topics covered in the manual. Thank you for listening. That concludes this audio version of the owner's manual of the Hushe A-CES. Please visit www.cranial-electrotherapy.co.uk for more information and for a digital version of this manual. I'm Chris James. Goodbye.